Good evening, friends, and welcome to Funfold Friday. I'm Doreen DeCivas, and I am from It Begins with Ink and Paper, and I'm really glad to have you join me tonight or join me on the replay, whatever works best for you. So I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm excited to share with you the Funfold that I learned about this week. I actually attended a online stamping retreat last weekend. It was actually called a worldwide retreat because there were demonstrators from not only the United States but Australia as well, and they were showing some really cool cards and some really cool fun folds. So I thought I would take one of those and share with you tonight. So I hope you're looking forward to a really fun fold. So tonight I'm going to use the same stamp set that I used last week to create our fun fold. And that was the Kindest Gnomes. So this set is just adorable. It has the best designer series paper that comes with it in its suite. So here's an example of one of the sheets. Just so cute, all these little gnomes that you can cut out with the dies. And let me just pull some of this out. On the back side of this one, we have some beautiful snowflakes. We have this beautiful mountain scene here with the trees and the snow. Just so beautiful. And then a beautiful Pacific Point snowflake background. And then just some miniature little gnomes and forest friends on this one with the mushroom homes on the other side. So that's a lot of fun. And then we have just a bunch of gnomes with mushroom homes on this paper. And then the back side has kind of like a pool party snowflake design. And then finally, we have a sheet that just has mushrooms on it. I actually used this pattern last week on the card I was making, and then has a nice variation of different size snowflakes and colors on that size. So kind of a fun print and fun stamps. And so tonight I'm going to be focusing on the little woodland creatures that are in this designer series paper. And tonight's card is actually a smaller card. It is going to fit in one of our note card envelopes. So to give you an idea, you'll see the dimensions in just a minute. But this is a multi-level or two-level gatefold card. So we have here the adorable little fox, a bird, and the deer. And when you open it up, we've got another bird and a bunny, and then some of that beautiful designer series paper. And then we have a moose. We're using some of the beautiful vellum and the iridescent trim. And then you open it up and you have your warm wishes greeting. So let's get started on this version of a gatefold card. You can also make this full size, but this week I'm just making it as a note card size. So we'll put this right here, and let me move the stamp set out of the way, the bundle. So what do you need for tonight's card? Well, to start, you're going to need several of the you're going to have to fussy cut several of the woodland creatures. So I fussy cut one moose, I fussy cut one of the deer, and oh, where did mine go? Looks like I might have to do some more fussy cutting. I think I dropped some. I have a little bunny. I have a bird. I actually had two birds and a fox. Let me just see if I can see where those guys went. So we might have to get some more paper out and do some fussing cutting. I did cut these last night, but they have disappeared from my craft table. So let me just grab another piece of paper so that I'm going to want, oh, I do have my two birds here. Oh, good. So I have my two birds. So the only thing I'm missing is my little fox. So I'm going to start by just fussy cutting that. So I'm going to do the fox that is standing up for this card. I tried to take the different shapes. So I'm using the tree paper with the woodland creatures on the back. And the best way to fussy cut is to try to leave a little bit of a border around your image. And remember, paper cutting from kindergarten, where you're taught to kind of hold your scissors in one place and you're moving the paper around to get that nice cut. And I'm just going to continue putting that as much of a border as I can around it to just, it's never going to be perfect when you're fussy cutting, and that border just helps to give a little bit of forgiveness. So there we go. We have our last little image cut. So there's our fox. So what I'm going to do first is combine the images that I cut, and I'm going to use some of my liquid glue. I put my liquid glue in these little containers with a really fine tip, and that just allows me to have a little bit more control and to have it come out really small. So with my deer, I am going to actually put the deer that's kind of sitting up towards the back of the deer. So I'm just going to put some glue on this one side. I don't need much. And then I'm going to attach him. So he's just sitting beside the deer. And then I'm going to take one of the birds, and I'm just going to put a little bit, actually I want it more, I want it down more towards the bottom. And I'm going to have the deer the bird sitting on the deer. Maybe a little bit on top of the fox so that the bird is looking at the deer. So I'm going to let those dry. The moose is just going to be all by himself. He's the star of the show. And then on the bunny rabbit, I'm going to just attach this bird so he's like snuggling a little bit with the bunny rabbit. So I'm going to just put that on the glue on one side. There we go. Okay, and now we have the little bird and the bunny cuddling, so that's going to go to a side. So those are all set right now, so that's great and ready for the card. So now for the first part of the card, you are going to need, and I have a little cheat sheet here, you are going to need a piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock that measures 10.5 by 5. And then I scored it at 3.5 and 7. And so each of these panels is 3.5 by 5. And that's the size of our note cards. So that's where that comes from. We're going to do something with this. I also have for the card, I've cut out several different sizes of this vellum. This is the same vellum. It comes from the same package. This has a silver iridescent, and this has the flocked white on it. So I made my first sample with that, and I'm making my second sample with the flocked white. And the size of this is 1 3/4 by 3 1/4. And this is also 3 1/4, and it's by 1 1/2, so a little bit smaller. I also have a piece of the designer series paper. We're using the same piece in this card tonight, and it's just going to vary which side I'm using. This piece is again 3 1/4 by 2 3/4. I have some more pieces of white that are 1 1/2 by 3 1/4. Oops, this one's actually, 3 1/4. So I have 2 more pieces of that, and then a piece that is 3 1/4 by 1. I'm going to be making some snowbanks with all of this. I have another piece of that vellum that's going to go on a panel that is 2 3/4 by 3 1/4. Another smaller piece of vellum that was the same as before, and then another piece of the designer series paper that is 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. So, like I said, lots of little pieces. And then finally, the little card that's on the inside has a piece of, I used a different piece of snowflake paper. This is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and the same size of basic white. And then I have a piece of 8 by 3 and scored it for that little inside card. And then finally, I've taken a note size envelope just so that you can see the size, and I've taken a scrap of the same paper I'm using, and that's going to be used to decorate our envelope flap. Okay, I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to start with the easy part and start with this little piece of the inside card. So what I'm going to use is the Warm Wishes stamp from this the Kindest Gnomes set, and I'm going to use some Bermuda Bay ink. I want to make sure, because this is such a small, narrow stamp, that when I am stamping, I'm not going to rock the stamp. So let me just stamp down here, see how it's stamping, and then I'm going to just come up here and stamp my Warm Wishes. That's all the stamping I'm going to do tonight. The rest is in the construction. So I'm going to fold this miniature card on a card. So there we go. And I am going to first attach this piece right on top of the Bermuda Bay. And I'm going to use my glue again. And what I'm going to do is look underneath, and I'm not sure, I think you can see it okay. Where the flocking is, I'm going to add some little bit of glue. Now I could use my Stampin' Seal on this as well, but these spaces where the flocking are located are not exactly large spaces. So I want some glue in different parts to make sure we're holding this card together. So I am just putting in a variety of different places some of the liquid glue, but I'm making sure it's going behind some of the flocking so that when I put it down, it's going to adhere. But remember, with vellum, you're going to see the adhesive right through it. And this way, all of the adhesive is hidden behind the flocking. So perfect. But I am going to use my Stampin' Seal on the piece that's going to go inside. So I'm just going to add some of that adhesive and put this right here in the layered right inside this card. And then the last thing that this card needs is this beautiful iridescent trim. So it's white with all of this gorgeous, let me find my end. I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but it's just this gorgeous shimmery piece of twine. So I am going to, or trim, whatever you want to call it. When I make a bow, as you all know, I hate doing it on while I'm live. I'd rather make them when the world's not watching. I always make my bow on the end of the ribbon while it's still attached, because I always find that I'm going to have much less waste. And in this particular one, I'm going to have 0 waste. So there's my bow. It's going to be attached with some glue dots. Just make it a little tighter. There we go. And I am just going to attach this to the front. So, like I said, I'm going to use some glue dots. And let me grab those. So I really needed to hold some of my most used supplies. And I made this really great glue dimensional tear and tape container out of some retired designer series paper. And I'll tell you, it's keeping me so organized and everything where it needs to be. So I'm going to take that ribbon and just put it right at the top. And this is all done, so I'm going to set it aside. Now I've got some cutting that I need to do. So I'm going to take this piece of paper, and what I need to do, remember I said I had 3.5 and 7 where I scored it. On one of these, I am going to cut down 3 inches. And on the other, I'm going to cut down 2. It doesn't really matter which one you cut down 3 and which one you cut down 2, because you can flip the paper over to do this. And then I'm going to cut that square off. So I want to show you how I'm going to use my paper cutter to do this. And so on right here on the paper cutter, I have, I don't know how well you can see it, it's marked in inches. So what I'm going to do is line this up at my 3.5 piece, which I can do by just lining this right up with the track. And I am going to line this piece up at, there's a little notch here on the edge of the cutter. So I can line that right up with my 3 and take it right up to the top. And so there's my 3-inch cut. And then, because this is 5 inches and I've gone down 3, if I go to my 2 inches, it's going to take me right to that cut. And so again, I can come down to my score line and I can put my paper, my cutter there, and I get my piece cut right out that I need. And then I can use this for another card. So I'm going to this time line this one up right in the track again. And this time I'm going to bring my paper cutter to the 2-inch mark and cut up. And then here I'm going to mark this at the 3-inch area. And I'm going to put this at my 7, whoops, that's my scoring blade. It's not going to help us if I score it. I'm going to place this at my 7-inch, cut down, and I have my cuts made really easy. So and that's probably the hardest part of making this card. So now all I need to do is I'm going to just take that little edge off of my cuts. Okay. Because I'm going to fold in like this. There is my first fold. Here is my second fold. And this is going to fold like this. And if it's not folding perfectly, because as we know, in a perfect world is not always a crafter's world. We sometimes have to just make a few little adjustments with our bone folder to get those creases the way we want them to go. So there we go. So that's our gatefold, and it's a split level or 2-level gatefold. So now let's start doing some of the decorating. So I'm going to take all of those pieces I had cut earlier, and this piece here is going to fit in on our background. So let me just get my snail out. And I'm going to put this right here. And then I'll put that other piece in afterwards. I am going to put my larger piece of vellum right here. And I'm going to be making some snowbanks. So again, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to put it right here so it's easier to see. I'm going to take some of my glue and I am just going to put some random dots. I don't want to see it. So I'm just going to go around the edges, and on the larger dots, I am just going to put a dot of glue. This little container that I bought from Amazon just does such a nice job at just giving you a little bit of glue. Does not take much to adhere it. So now I'm just going to take this piece and center it. The glue gives me a little bit of wiggle room, and just put my glue down. There we go. And then I am going to take those, remember we had those 3 pieces that were 1.5 by 3.25, and I'm going to take one of them, and then I'm going to take this small one, and I'm going to make, for this side, a couple of snowbanks. So I'm just going to tear towards me. If you tear towards you, you're going to get the cut edge is going to be, you're going to see the torn paper, and it kind of looks cool. So this is going to go down, and I actually want this to, I'm going to bring this down just a little bit more so it looks more like a snowbank. So it's going down. And then on this one, I'm going to, let's see, have just another, so it looks layered. So I'm going to take this piece, and again, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on it. I could use either my snail or my, not my snails, excuse me, my Stampin' Seal, or I can use the glue, so it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to put this piece on the bottom as well, just so that I'll show you held up. It just makes it look a little more realistic for the snow. It's hard to believe I'm working on, with the cold weather we had last night, it's just hard to believe I'm making some snowy kinds of cards. So I'm going to put this on the bottom. There we go. So if I hold it up, you can see the layers of the snowbank. And then on this side of the card, we're going to add our moose friend. So again, I'm going to use some of the liquid glue. Just putting some on his antlers so that they'll sit down. All right. And then I'm going to have him standing in the snowbank. Just hold him down for a minute while the glue takes hold, and there we have our little moose friend. Now on this side, I'm going to be doing the same thing, but I'm going to be putting, it's just a smaller piece. So I'm going to do the same thing by just adding my glue. If I was going to make this a full-side card, I would actually probably use a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. But I wanted to show you how you could make a version of this card using just a regular piece of cardstock. And I could get both layers from one piece of cardstock. Okay, so now I've added my other layer of vellum, and I'm going to go back and take my little rabbit and bird, and I'm going to put that in this section of, oops, I've got to do my snow first. So after I do my snowy bank, so just as to remind you, this is what the inside looked like. So I'm going to add my snowy bank here. I'm only going to do, this is a smaller section, so I'm only going to do one snowbank. So I'm going to add this right here. And then I'm going to add my little rabbit and bird. Cute little pair. Snuggling down on the snowbank. So I put that one more in the center this time. Last time I put it over a little bit. And then when I turn this on the inside, this is where this piece is going to go. And this is just so that when I close this, we just have some of that paper. And on that one, I'm going to just use my stamp and seal to add it. All right, and then on my front, my last piece of vellum is going to go onto my card. Just turn this over again. It's just so much easier to see it on the darker paper than on the white. So again, I just want to thank you for joining me tonight for Fun Fold Friday. I hope you enjoy this fold. I have several more from the virtual class I attended over the weekend. And I love learning new techniques. Tomorrow is a big day in the crafting world, as it is World Card Making Day, and Stamping Up is having a free event that if you go to stampingup.com, you're able to sign up for it, and you'll be sent a link that you can go to and join the fun. It's for Eastern time. It's going to start, I believe, at 4 o'clock. And I'm going to be joining it late. If you can't make it to the entire thing, you can just, it's going to be recorded. So you will actually get a chance to view it later, if that's the case. I know one of these has already started. Let's see if I can find which one it is. Here we go. No need to start another one. So let me tear the final piece, the final snowbank. There, that looks good. Just don't want it too pointy. There we go. And this is going to go on the front of the card. So I hope you're able to do something fun for World Card Making Day. I am going to join, like I said, late, but I actually got some Bruin tickets that were given to me after attending a workshop this week, and so my husband and I are going to see the season, one of the preseason games for the Bruins. So I'm just going to now add some dimensionals. This deer's head is going to be sticking over the top of this card. So I only want to put these towards the bottom. I don't think that will show through too much. Let me just trim that off. I don't want the dimensional to show through. And then I'm going to add this to the front of the card. So cute, these little woodland creatures are. Okay, so now the next thing is adding the card to the center here. And I'm going to do that again with my stamp and seal. So I'm just going to put a little extra on this because it's going to be open and closed a lot. And I'm just going to center this up towards the top. So we have our warm wishes. And then when this is closed, pull out the ribbon, we have our completed note card. So cute. And here's the one. So I used the same package of vellum. I just used the silver iridescent and the white flocking. So now let's take care of our envelope. So this particular card, as I said, it is going to go into a note card size envelope. So I'm going to take my liquid glue again. Just get these things out of the way. And I am going to just put some of the liquid glue onto the envelope flap. Not very much, because again, I don't need very much to hold it in place. We don't want to ever send a naked envelope. And so you can always stamp on the envelopes as well. But this time I'm just going to add an envelope flap. So I'm going to attach that. So I just cut a piece that's a little bigger than the flap. I could have even cut this a little smaller. This just so happened to be a piece I had left over from my prepping for this. And then I'm just going to go around the envelope and trim away the paper. And there we have it, a beautiful envelope flap. So the envelope is going to match the card. And then, of course, the card would just go in here. Now, I will tell you that this is a pretty thick card. And one of the ways you know if you're going to need extra postage or not is that the Postal Service, it has to be less than 1/4 of an inch. So if you open up your paper trimmer, this right here is 1/4 of an inch. So if I can fit this through, and you can see it's not going through, then I know that I don't need extra. But this is so many different layers with the paper on both sides and the cutouts and then this little booklet that this is going to take extra postage to mail to your loved one, close friends. And I love how I can make this card look a little different by the different woodland animals that I use. So I used the sleeping fox here, the sitting fox here. I used 2 different bunnies. You can see the right ear is down, left ear over here. I used different birds. And then my moose goes in different ways on the card. So there's, you can use so many of the different woodland creatures in lots of different ways. So I hope you do some stamping tomorrow. If you decide to try this card, please post a picture and put it in the comments. Please let me know where you're watching from. I love to see where you're from and if you're joining me tonight. So please say hello in the comments. Feel free to share this video as well to get it out to your friends. And I hope you have a great fall weekend. And I will be back next Friday with another edition of Fun Fold Friday. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.